Welcome to EnglishPass Podcast, brought to you from our local studio in Calgary. I'm your host, Samantha, and today we're diving into an exciting topic, a graduation ceremony. Whether you're a beginner or intermediate learner, in this podcast, we're helping you level up your English listening and reading skills. And before we get started, let me tell you that the sponsor of this episode is TypeFit, keyboard typing practice and learning service. Today, we're exploring something really interesting, a graduation ceremony. This is an engaging subject for English learners because it covers a lot of practical vocabulary and real-world situations. So let's dive right in. A graduation ceremony is a special event that marks the completion of a course of study at a school, college, or university. It is a moment of celebration, a rite of passage, and a formal recognition of a student's hard work and dedication. At its core, graduation is about transition, moving from one phase of life into the next. While many people think of it simply as a party or a day to wear a funny hat, the ceremony is actually rooted in hundreds of years of tradition and deep symbolic meaning. The most common name for this ceremony is commencement. It might seem strange to call the end of your studies a commencement, which actually means a beginning. However, this word is used because the ceremony marks the start of your new life as a graduate. You are no longer just a student. You are now a person ready to contribute your knowledge to the world. This is our first key vocabulary word, commencement. It reminds us that while an academic chapter is closing, a much larger professional or personal chapter is just starting to open. To understand why we celebrate graduation the way we do, we have to look back at the history of universities in Europe. During the 12th and 13th centuries, the first universities in places like Bologna and Paris were closely tied to the church. The students and teachers were often monks or clerics. Because the stone buildings they studied in were very cold and drafty, they wore long, heavy robes to stay warm. Over time, these robes became the official uniform of scholars. This leads us to our next vocabulary term, regalia. Regalia refers to the formal clothing and decorations worn at a graduation, including the gown, the cap, and sometimes a colorful hood. The cap you see graduates wear is often called a mortarboard. It has a flat, square top and a tassel hanging from one side. There is a fun tradition during the ceremony where students start with the tassel on the right side of the cap. After they receive their degrees, they move the tassel to the left side. This small movement is a powerful symbol. It shows the world that their status has changed from student to graduate in an instant. Let us look at how a typical ceremony unfolds. Usually, it begins with a procession. A procession is a formal march of people moving forward in a line. Usually, the teachers and officials walk in first, followed by the students. They often walk to a specific piece of music, such as pomp and circumstance, which creates a feeling of dignity and importance. As the students walk to their seats, their families cheer from the audience. This is often the most emotional part of the day, seeing the pride on the faces of parents and friends. Once everyone is seated, there are usually several speeches. One of the most important speakers is the valedictorian. This is a vocabulary word used to describe the student with the highest academic rank in the graduating class. The valedictorian usually gives a farewell speech that encourages their classmates to be brave and successful in the future. There might also be a guest speaker, someone famous or successful who shares life lessons with the graduates. Now, let us consider some real-world examples to see how these ceremonies differ. Our first example is a typical American high school graduation. These are often held in large gymnasiums or on football fields. The atmosphere is loud and energetic. Students might decorate the tops of their caps with glitter, photos, or messages like "Thanks, Mom," to stand out in the crowd. It is a very personal and family-focused event. In contrast, our second example is a graduation at an ancient university like Oxford or Cambridge in England. These ceremonies are much more formal and often conducted in Latin. The regalia is very specific. Different colors of hoods represent different subjects like law, science, or history. It feels less like a party and more like a sacred historical ritual that has not changed for centuries. A third example can be found in Japan, where the ceremony is called Satsujiashiki. It is generally very solemn and quiet compared to Western ceremonies. Students often wear their school uniforms or traditional kimonos. Instead of cheering loudly, the focus is on a deep sense of gratitude toward the teachers and the school. The entire group acts in harmony, bowing together and singing school songs with great precision. For a fourth example, think about a military academy graduation. At schools like West Point in the United States, the ceremony ends with a very famous tradition. After the students are officially commissioned as officers, they all throw their white hats high into the air at the same time. This hat toss is a symbol of joy and the sudden release of years of strict discipline. It is a visually stunning moment that many people recognize from movies and news reports. Our fifth example brings us to the modern era, the virtual graduation. During times when people cannot meet in person, schools have held ceremonies online. Students stay at home and watch a live video stream of their names being read. While it lacks the physical presence of a crowd, it shows that the spirit of graduation is about the achievement, not just the location. Families might still dress up and have a small party in their living rooms to honor the graduates' hard work. Sixth, consider a kindergarten or elementary school graduation. Some people think these are unnecessary, but they serve an important purpose. They teach young children how to set goals and celebrate their progress. These ceremonies are usually short and cute, with children wearing paper caps and singing songs. It is the very first time they experience the structure of a formal academic milestone. As the ceremony reaches its peak, each student is called by name to walk across the stage. This is the moment they receive their diploma. A diploma is the official piece of paper or certificate that proves you have completed your requirements. Even though the actual paper might be mailed to you later, the act of shaking a dean's hand and taking a leather folder is the highlight for most students. After everyone has received their diploma, the leader of the school officially confers the degrees. This means they use their legal authority to grant the students their new titles. After the ceremony, the graduates are no longer just students, they become alumni. This is a Latin word for the former students of a school or university. Becoming an alumnus means you are now part of a lifelong network. You might support the school in the future, or you might find a job through another person who went to the same school. It is a bond that lasts a lifetime. There are some common misconceptions about graduation. One mistake people make is thinking that the ceremony is the same thing as graduating. In reality, graduating is a legal process that happens when you pass all your classes. The ceremony is just the celebration of that fact. You can graduate without going to the ceremony, but most people choose to go because it provides closure. It gives them a chance to say goodbye to their friends and teachers in a formal way. Another nuance is the difference between degrees. A person graduating with an associate degree might have a different colored tassel than someone with a master's degree or a doctorate. If you see someone wearing a gown with 3 velvet stripes on the sleeves, that usually means they have earned a PhD, which is the highest level of academic achievement. The more stripes and colors you see, the more years that person has likely spent in a classroom. What makes a graduation ceremony so powerful? It is the mixture of different emotions. The sadness of leaving friends, the relief of finishing exams, and the excitement of the unknown future. It is a day where time seems to slow down. When you stand in that line, waiting for your name to be called, you think about all the late nights you spent studying and all the challenges you overcame. In the end, whether the ceremony is in a grand cathedral in Europe, a sunny field in California, or a quiet hall in Tokyo, the message is the same. It is a message of hope. Every graduation ceremony tells the students that they have the power to learn, to grow, and to change their lives through education. As the graduates walk out of the hall during the recessional, the final formal walk out of the room, they carry with them not just a piece of paper, but the potential to build a better world. It is a truly universal human experience that bridges cultures and generations. Through the gowns, the speeches, and the moving of the tassel, we celebrate the incredible journey of the human mind. And that's all for today's episode of EnglishPass Podcast. I hope you found this helpful. Remember to practice what you've learned, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how we improve. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and join us next time. Let me remind you that the sponsor of the episode is TypeFit, and I suggest to check the link at the description. I'm Samantha, and I'm excited to be your host for many more fascinating episodes to come. Until then, keep learning and keep growing. Goodbye.